Beard. Mackenzie Blackwood, I did discuss in the previous video, he was traded away. And Jonathan Bernier is a UFA at 35 years old. If he goes anywhere, in my opinion, he's just going to be a backup. So only time will tell to see where he ends up. So now, going down the list, Kevin Ball, I believe, is an RFA, as Nathan Bastian did resign. Boakvist has yet to resign. I'm pretty sure he's an RFA as well. Jepser Bratt, I'm pretty sure he did sign a contract extension. He's sticking around there. Ryan Graves is heading to Steel City. He has signed with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Dougie Hamilton still has 5 more years left on his contract. Eric Haula did resign with the Jersey, so he's sticking around. The captain, Nico Hischier, has 4 more years left to go on his contract. One of the 2 Hughes brothers, Luke Hughes, still has 2 more years left on his deal. Speaking of his brother, has 7 more years left to go for Jack. Curtis Lazar has 2 more years left to go on his contract. John Marino still has 4 more years left to go on his deal. Michael McLeod did resign. I do believe I mentioned that before. Timo Meyer did resign. Again, his contract's not going to show up on the old NHL game. Dawson Mercer still has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Andre Palat, the big signing from last offseason, has 4 more years left to go on his contract. Damon Severson, I did mention in another video, he was traded away, as well as Sherrick Wojcik has traded away as well. Jonas Singlethayer, if I'm not mistaken, his contract did run up, but he signed an extension for 5 more seasons at 3.4. Brandon Smith has 1 more left to go on his deal, and Thomas Tatar will be testing the waters in free agency. Miles Wood, he has now signed with the Colorado Avalanche. So now on to Long Island to take a look at the Islanders roster. I guess I'll start with the goaltending situation. So Sorokin still has 1 more year left to go on his deal. Varlamov did re-sign, so those that tandem between those two are guaranteed to stick around for at least 1 more year. And now we'll take a look at the rosters. So Sebastian Aho, not the one to be confused from the Carolina Hurricanes, the defenseman, has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Josh Bailey was traded away. Matt Barzal, I do apologize, has signed an 8-year extension for $9.15, so he's going to be sticking around there for a little bit. Samuel Bolduc is an RFA, I do believe. Casey Cizikas has 4 more years left to go on his contract. Clutterbuck has 1 more year left to go on his. Noah Dobson has 2 more years left on his contract. Pierre Engvall was traded from the Toronto Maple Leafs to the Islanders, has re-signed. He is sticking around there. Hudson Fasching, I'm not 100% certain. If anything, he might be a UFA. Bo Horvat is sticking around Long Island for 8 long years, as well as Barzell at 8.5. Anders Lee, the captain, has 3 more years left to go on his contract. Matt Martin has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Scott Mayfield did resign, so he's coming back to the Long Island. Brock Nelson has 2 more years left to go on his deal. And JGP, Jean-Gabriel Pajot, has 3 more years left to go for him. Kyle Palmieri has 2 more years left to go for himself. Zach Parise is a UFA at 39 years old. Is he going to come back? Is the team going to pick him up? I feel that's kind of late in a career to be signing with the team, but that's just me. And Adam Palesh has 6 more years left to go on his deal. Ryan Pollock has 7 more years left to go on his deal. Alex Romanov has 2 more years left to go on his deal. And Oliver Wallstrom, I believe, is an RFA. So now taking a look at the New York Rangers, who were a little busy to say the least. So Yaroslav Halak, I think, has gone. I'm not sure if he's retired, but he's definitely not going to be a member of the Rangers. Shesterkin has had at least 2 more years left to go on his contract, so he's going to be the starter for a little while. And now take a look at the roster. So Schittle has, let's take a look at his contract extension, 4.4 over 4 years. Adam Fox has 6 more years left to go. Barclay Goodrow has 4 years left to go. Capo Caco has 1 more year left to go. Now the big thing here is Patrick Kane. Is he going to come back? There's talk about how he had to get surgery. He's going to be out for X amount of months. Is the team going to want to wait till after he's healthy, skating and stuff like that? Or is the team going to take a gamble and just sign the guy, whether he's hurt or not? It was a huge bust, in my opinion, being traded from Chicago to New York. Obviously, that was his preferred destination. But the fact that they got bounced in the first round, Just goes to show that you can have a three-time Stanley Cup champ on your roster. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a whole lot of success. Chris Kreider has 4 more years left to go on his contract. A big thing here, Alex Lafreniere obviously has been in the league for a couple of seasons. His contract is up. He's an RFA. I'm sure if you're the Rangers, you want to get a contract done ASAP. Again, I'm not sure if other teams can pitch in and try to sign this kid, but if they can, I'm sure they would love nothing more than to try and steal him from underneath their nose. Ryan Lindgren has 1 more left to go on his contract. Nico Mikola has left. I think he signed with the Detroit Red Wings, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, he's out of the blue shirts. Keandre Miller, his contract is up, so he's an RFA. Tyler Motte's a UFA, I do believe, after he's only signed a 1-year deal. Terry Panarin, the bread man, has 3 more. Oh no! Thank you. There we go. I saved the day. Nothing's broke. Terry has 3 more years left to go on his contract. I gotta stop hitting the table. My goodness. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the advice. Braden Schneider has 1 more left to go on his contract, and the other big UFA is now Vladimir Tarasenko. Where is he going to end up? Are the Rangers going to try and bring him back? Are they going to move on? Again, you bring in a Stanley Cup champ doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have success on another team. And then Vincent Trocheck still has 6 more years left to go on his contract. And the captain of the team, Jacob Trouba, still has 3 more years left to go on his contract, and Jamie Vesey, I believe, has 2 more years left on his contract as well. 1 more year left on his contract. I do apologize. So now we're moving on to Canada's capital, the Ottawa Senators. So take a look at their goaltending situation first. So Mads Zogard is signed for 1 more season. Anton Forsberg has 3 more years left on his deal. And Cam Talbot has signed with the Los Angeles Kings. So for me, it's almost like the Senators and the Kings traded Talbot for Korpisalo, if you think about it. Drake Batherson has 4 more years left to go on his contract. Derek Brassard, with his injuries, I wouldn't be surprised if he called it quits. He's bounced around the league for so many teams. Obviously, he did play for the Senators before in that trade for Zibanejad, but since then he's bounced around the league. He played this past season with the Sens, but again, he got injured, and there's no guarantees that he's going to be back. And if he is back, who's he going to play for? Patrick Brown did sign, if I'm not mistaken, with the Boston Bruins, so he's no longer a member of said Senators, but after splitting the season between the Philadelphia Flyers and Ottawa. Eric Brandstrom did re-sign with the Ottawa Senators. That's a pretty big signing for them for a top 4 defenseman. Tom Chabot still has 5 more years left on his deal. The big trade for the Sens last season was Jacob Chichurgan. They got him from the Arizona Coyotes. He still has 2 more years left on his deal. Alex DeBrincat wants out of Ottawa. He does not want to sign a long-term deal, but what he wants and what he's going to get is 2 different things. Like maybe they hold on to him and you say, listen, you got to play for us even though you're technically not under contract. But yeah, more or less he wants out of Ottawa, but who's going to want to pick him up? And if they do, they're going to have to sign him for a long term because he doesn't want a bridge deal. He doesn't want to sign for 1 or 2 more years. And if he did, I'm sure he would have already signed with the Sens by now. But yeah, he wants out of Ottawa and out ASAP. Dylan Gambrell has signed with their Ontario rival with the Toronto Maple Leafs, so he's out. Julien Coutier has signed with the New York Islanders. Claude Giroux still has 2 more years left on his deal. Ridley Grigg has 2 more years left on his deal. Travis Hamonic did re-sign with the Sens, so he's going to be coming back as a member of the Ottawa Senators. Nick Holden, I believe, is now going to be a UFA. Matthew Joseph has 3 more years left on his deal. Mark Kaslik re-signed for 2 years, $835,000. So he's going to be coming back for the Sens. Parker Kelly has 1 more year left to go on his deal. Tyler Clevin has 2 more years left to go on his deal. Josh Norris has 7 years left to go on his contract. Shane Pinto, I believe he's an RFA. Jake Sanderson has 2 more years left to go. And Tim Stutzel, his rookie contract ran up this year, but now his big contract, 8 years at 8.3. It's a lot of money. So he's going to be sticking around the nation's capital for a little bit. And then their captain, Brady Tkachuk, has 5 more years left to go on his contract. Austin Watson, I believe, is a UFA. He has not made up his mind or signed with anyone as of just yet. And the last but not least, Artem Zub. His contract ran up, but now his new deal kicks in, 4 years, $4.6 million. So he's going to be sticking around the nation's capital, to say the least, for a few more years. So that should take care of the Ottawa Senators. Now we're going to move on to the Philadelphia Flyers. So for their goaltending situation, they still have Felix Sandstrom and Carter Hart for at least one more year. There's lots of talk about Carter Hart possibly being traded. If he were to go, where would he end up, and what would the Flyers get back? That obviously needs some type of goaltender in return, unless they have a prospect I'm not aware of. But as of right now, he will be the starter, or should be the starter, heading into next season. Wade Allison's there for another year. Atkinson has 2 more years left to go on his deal. Bellows, if anything, he might be a UFA. Justin Braun, again, if he's anything, he'd be a UFA at 36 years old. Noah Cates, if anything, he might be an RFA. I don't have his name written down. Sean Couturier has 7 more years to go on his contract. Tony DeAngelo, controversial guy to say the least, bounced around a few teams over the last few seasons. So will Philly try to get rid of him? Will they bring him back? And if they do, they already know what he's like. It can be a pain in the you-know-what. Nicolas Deslauriers has 3 more years left to go on his deal. Ryan Ellis, as long as he can stay healthy and consistent, has 4 more years left to go on his deal. But I remember when he first got traded, he missed most of the 2021-2022 season. So it was looking like a huge L when it came to the Philadelphia Flyers and getting him and that long contract. But if he can stay healthy, he's a pretty good top 4 defenseman. Joel Farabee has 5 years left to go on his deal. Tyson Forster has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Morgan Frost, if anything, he might be a UFA or RFA, I'm not too sure. Kevin Hayes was traded away, so he's no longer be a member of the Flyers. Travis Konecny has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Tanner Lagzinski, his contract did run up, but he has 1 more year left, or he re-signed for 1 more year at $765,000. Scott Lawton has 3 more years left to go on his contract. Brandon Lemieux was traded this past season for McEwen. Will he stick around? Will he test the waters? I don't think he has a team as of just yet. Ivan Provorov, I've already mentioned he was traded away. Rasmus Ristolainen has 4 more years left to go on his contract at 5.1. Travis Simon, his contract ran up, but he did re-sign for 8 years at 6.25. And Nick Seeler did re-sign for 1 more season, so he's guaranteed to be for the Flyers for 1 more year. Owen Tippett has 1 more left to go on his contract, and James Van Riemsdyk has now signed with the Boston Bruins. He's been with the Flyers for many, many years. Yeah, he started with the Flyers and went to the Leafs, back to the Flyers. Now he's going back to the Atlantic Division to see how well he can succeed with the big bad Bruins. And Cam York, his contract is up, but someone like him is going to be an RFA, so I would not be surprised if the Philadelphia Flyers brought him back. On to their Pennsylvania rivals. Might as well start with the goaltending situation. They both will be coming back. Casey DeSmith still has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Tristan Jarry just signed a long-term deal, so he's guaranteed to be their goaltender moving forward. Josh Archibald is out of there. He's heading to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Nick Bonino, they brought him in from the San Jose Sharks to hopefully try and make a bit of a run at the playoffs, but evidently it was not meant to be. He is now signed with the New York Rangers. Jeff Carter has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Crosby has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Brian Dummoulin, the longtime Penguin, has now signed with the Seattle Kraken. He's no longer going to be a pairing member with Letang on the blue line, so we'll see how well he does in Seattle. Mark Friedman has 1 more left to go on his deal. Michael Granlund, they acquired him from the Nashville Predators. He has 2 more years left to go on his deal. Jake Gensel has 1 more year left to go on his deal. Danton Heinen, I can't remember if he got re-signed or if he's just an RFA, but as of right now, I don't think he has a team. And if he does have a team, I do apologize. Pierre-Oliver Joseph has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Dmitry Kulikov has signed with the Florida Panthers. So he split last season with Minnesota and the Pittsburgh Penguins. So now he's going to test his luck out in the Sunshine State. Letang has 5 more years left to go on his contract at 6.1. Malkin has 3 more years left at 6.1 as well. Alexander Nylander, his contract is up. If anything, he might just be a UFA. Drew O'Connor, if anything, he might be an RFA or UFA. I'm not 100% certain. I don't think it necessarily meant. I don't think it necessarily involves your age. It's just your contract. Obviously, when you first sign a contract, that's your rookie contract. So I'm not 100% certain on Drew. Jeff Petrie has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Marcus Pettersson has 2 more years left to go on his contract as well. Ryan Poehling signed with their state rival Philadelphia Flyers. Ricard Raquel has 5 more years left to go on his contract. That's a pretty big deal, in my opinion. Chad Rudwell has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Ryan Rust has 5 more years left to go on his contract. And Jan Ruda has 2 more years left to go on his. And Jason Zucker has signed with the Arizona Coyotes, so he's no longer a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins. We're getting there. At almost an hour and a half, we're getting there. So I'll go with goaltendings for the San Jose Sharks. So Capo Kakinen has 1 more left to go on his contract. James Reimer has signed with the Detroit Red Wings, so he is out of the California State. Take a look at here. Andrew Agazina, I mentioned before, he was traded away. Alexander Barabanov has 1 more left to go on his contract. Matt Benning has 3 more years left to go on his contract. Couture has 4 more years left to go. Mario Ferraro has 3 more years left to go. Gadjevich, I'm not 100% certain, but if anything, he might be a free agent, as well as Noah Gregor. Thomas Hertl has 7 more years left to go on his contract. Andreas Johansson, again, most likely a free agent. Now, this is the big one here. Erik Karlsson still has 4 more years left on his contract at 11.5. That's a lot of money to be paying a defenseman. But, I mean, he just won the Norris Trophy, if I'm not mistaken, for the best defenseman in the league. So he can put up a pretty solid, good numbers. But, obviously, in my opinion, the Sharks are in a rebuild. They're going to have to do something with that Couture contract as well as Hertl. But that's just my opinion. If they want to do a full rebuild and become contenders again one day. But I just remember in the 2019 offseason when Karlsson signed long-term with the Sharks, I'm like, this is not a good deal. Yeah, it looks great in the bank. That's about it. I mean, the Sharks haven't made the playoffs since that 2019 run when they got all the way to the conference final. So it just goes to show you can have the talent, but man, as soon as you pay people money, it's just like, that's a lot of money to be paying, especially one person. Martin Cote is a free agent, I do believe. Luke Kunin has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Kevin LeBlanc has 1 more year left to go on his contract as well. Oscar Lindblom, who they brought over from the Philadelphia Flyers, has 1 more year left to go as well. Steven Lorentz, I'm pretty sure he got traded away. Jacob McDonald has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Marcus Nutrivera, who they brought over from the Florida Panthers, I believe is a free agent. Jacob Peterson, I'm not 100% certain. They're also a free agent. Radim Simic has 1 more left to go on his contract. Nico Sturm has 2 more years left to go on his contract after splitting last season between the Minnesota Wild and the Colorado Avalanche. Evgeny Svechnikov, the other Svechnikov brother, is going to be a free agent as well. Henry Thurn has 1 more left to go on his contract. Jeffrey Vial is a free agent as well. This is another bad contract, in my opinion. Mark Edward Vlasic has 3 more years left to go on his contract. 36 years old, $7 million. It's a lot of money to be paying this guy. Will he be moved? I mean, if anyone gets moved, his contract might be a little bit easier to move than Karlsson's, but that's just me. And Fabian Zetterlund has re-signed with the Sharks, so he's going to be sticking around in the Sunshine State. Seattle Kraken. Martin Jones, his contract did run up. I'm pretty sure he's just a free agent right now. Obviously, Grubauer has 4 more years left to go on his deal, so he's not going anywhere anytime soon. And now we'll take a look at their forwards and defensemen, respectively. So, after winning the Calder Trophy, Matty Beniers has 1 more left to go on his contract. You can guarantee next offseason or even during this upcoming season, he's going to want to try to make bank to make this team, his team, to stay, to be on this team long term, more or less. Oliver Bjorkstrand has 3 more years left to go on his deal. Will Borgen, I think he left, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe he got re-signed, I'm not 100% certain. Andrei Burakovsky, 4 more years left to go on his deal. Ryan Donato signed with the Chicago Blackhawks, so he's out of there. Pretty sure Jonas Donskoy has retired, if I'm not mistaken. Either that or he's testing free agency, one of the two. I remember he got hurt. Maybe he's just a free agent. But yeah, he's no longer a member of the Seattle Kraken. Vince Dunn, his contract's up. I mean, if you're at Seattle, you want to try and sign this guy for a few more years, at least. He's only 26 years young. Jordan Eberle has one more year left to go on his contract. I think Cale Fleury left, if I'm not mistaken. I'm almost 100% certain he left, but again, I could be wrong. Jesper Froden is most likely going to be a free agent. Morgan Geekie, he did leave. He's now a member of the Boston Bruins. Yanni Gordy has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Ty Cartle has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Adam Larson has 2 more years left to go on his contract as well. Jared McCann has 4 years left to go. Jacob Megna has 3 more years left to go on his contract. Jamie Olesiak, I don't see his name anywhere on my list, so he must still be a member, has 3 more years left to go on his contract. Justin Schultz has 1 more year left to go on his deal. Jaden Schwartz has 3 more years left to go on his contract. Carson Soucy was signed by the Vancouver Canucks, so he's no longer a member of the Kraken. Daniel Sprong signed with the Vancouver Canucks as well. Sorry, I apologize. Soucy, Vancouver. Oh, sorry, Sprong has signed with the Detroit Red Wings, not the Vancouver Canucks. I do apologize for that. And Tanev has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Tolavainen has 1 more year left to go on his contract. And Wenberg also has 1 more year left to go on his contract. So on to the St. Louis Blues. So Thomas Greiss, his contract is up. He's a free agent. Will he come back as a backup? Obviously, Jordan Bennington, he's the starter, has 4 more years left to go on his contract. Now let's take a look and see. So Sammy Blais played with the Blues, then got traded or signed with the Rangers. Then he got traded back to the Blues, and now he signed 1 more year, so he'll be back in a Blues jersey for at least 1 more season. Robert Bortozzo has 1 more left to go on his contract. Logan Brown's contract is up. I'm pretty sure he's just a free agent unless he got signed somewhere else. Oh, no, I do apologize. He went to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Pavel Buchnevich has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Justin Falk has 4. Kasperi Kapanen has 1 more left to go. Torrey Krug has 4 years left to go on his contract. Jordan Kyrou, his contract ran up, but now he signed an 8-year, $8 million contract, so he's going to be sticking around with the Blues for a few more years. Nick Leddy has 3 more years left to go on his contract. Josh Lebo is a free agent, unless he got signed or picked up by another team. Jake Neighbors has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Colton Parayko, pretty good contract in my opinion. He's a pretty good top 4 guy, top 2 defenseman. 7 more years at 6.5. Tyler Pitlick, I believe, signed with the New York Rangers, so he's out of the Blues roster. Cal Rosen has 1 more left to go on his contract. Brandon Saad has 3 more years left to go on his contract. Marco Scandella has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Braden Shen has 5 more years, so I'm sure he'll be a Blue for the rest of his tenure. Robert Thomas, his initial contract did expire at 2.8, but now he signed 8 years, 8.125. So he's going to be a Blue for quite some time. Alexei Toropechchenko has most likely going to be a free agent. I don't have his name written down. Jacob Brano was brought over from the, I want to say, Capitals, Red Wings. Maybe it was the Red Wings. But he has 1 more left to go on his contract. Nathan Walker, his initial contract ran up, but he signed for 1 more seasons at $775,000. And that should take care of the St. Louis Blues. On to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So Vasilevsky is signed for 5 more seasons. Brian Elliott, his contract is up if he does come back. He's obviously just going to be a backup to Vasilevsky, but only time will tell to see if they acquire somebody else. So Pierre-Edouard Bellemare is a free agent. Bogusayan has 1 more left to go on his contract. Now let's get over to the extension length. Eric Sranek is signed for 8 more years at 5.2. Anthony Cirelli also signed for 8 more years at 6.25. Ian Cole has signed with the Vancouver Canucks, so he's out of the Tampa Bay organization. Ross Colton was traded away. Michael Easemont His contract has ran up, but I'm sure they'll do their best to re-sign him. Hayden Fleury has 1 more year left to go on his deal. Brandon Hagel has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Victor Hedman has 2 more years left to go on his. Taylor Janot was that was a trade that sent Cal Foote the other way to the Nashville Predators. If you're Tampa Bay and you're that committee, think this guy is legit to be a top 9 forward, you're going to want to re-sign this guy ASAP. Alex Killorn. This is probably the biggest signing thus far. He has signed with the Anaheim Ducks. It's crazy to think that someone like him, who was like a top 6, top 9 guy, and this is the biggest signing thus far of the offseason. But he's put up some pretty big points, and I'm sure he'll do just fine in the Sunshine State. Nikita Kucherov is signed for 4 more seasons at 9.5. Patrick Maroon was traded away. Nick Paul still has 6 more years left on his deal. Nick Parabix has 2 more years left to go on his contract after this one just expired. Corey Perry was traded away. Braden Point has 7 more years at 9.5. Darren Radish has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Brent Seabrook, again, just like a lot of the other LTIR players, his contract was traded from Chicago to Tampa Bay, so he's not playing. The last time he played, let's take a quick little game. The last time he played was in the 2019-2020 season, so it's been 3 long years since we've seen Brent Seabrook on the ice in skates. And Mikhail Sergachev has 8 more years left to go at 8.5 as his deal just ran out and his new one kicks in. And Stamkos is heading into the last year of his 8.5 mil. Will he end up playing for the Lightning as long term? Only next season will tell. And that takes care of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So now moving on to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And we'll take a look at their goaltending situation. So Justin Wall has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Ilya Samsonov, I'm not sure if he's re-signed or not, but if I was Toronto, I'd get him signed ASAP. I mean, he did help your team get their first series win since 2004, so I'm sure they'll want to try and bring him back. Matt Murray most likely will be bought out. He was traded from the Sens to the Leafs last offseason and evidently proved that his struggles in Ottawa weren't just because he had a bad team in front of him. It's because he's not as good of a goalie as he was back when he had Pittsburgh and the team he had in front of him there. So don't be surprised if Matt Murray's donning a New Jersey next season. Where will he end up? Again, only him and his agent will know, or the team that he plays for will know. So now taking a look at the roster. So Noel Acciari he signed with the Pittsburgh Penguins, so he's no longer a member of the Leafs. Aston Reese is a free agent. TJ Brody has 1 more left to go on his contract. Michael Bunting did sign with the Carolina Hurricanes. Giordano has 1 more year left on his contract, and in my opinion, it's probably going to be his last year of his NHL career. 39 years old. That's pretty old for a defenseman. Yeah, Chara played till he was like in his early mid-40s, but not everyone can play as long as Chara did. Eric Gustafsson did sign with the New York Rangers. He's no longer a member of the Blue and Whites. Justin Hall, a lot of people were calling for this guy to leave, and his contract finally ran up, and now he's a member of the Detroit Red Wings. So a huge signing for Detroit, and maybe this is a huge help for the Leafs. I'm not 100% certain on that one. Cal Yarncroc has 3 more years left to go on his deal. David Kampf did re-sign, so he's going to be coming back to the Blue and Whites. Alex Kerfoot is heading to the desert to play for the Arizona Coyotes. He signed a contract with them. Matthew Nyes still has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Sam Lafferty still has 1 more year left to go on his deal. Timothy Liljegren has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Mitch Marner has 2 more years left to go on his contract at 10.9. Austin Matthews is heading into this last year of his contract. A lot of speculation. Will he come back? Will he leave? Test the waters. Again, it's up to him and his agent and the GM to come up with a solution for that. Jake McCabe was traded from the Blackhawks to the Leafs, and he still has 2 more years left on his contract, so I'm sure they'll want to try and keep him on the roster. Victor Mete has signed with the Philadelphia Flyers. He was injured for most of the season last year, so obviously didn't get a whole lot of playing or any time in the playoffs. Jake Muzzin, a guy that's most likely done. It's sad to say he's only 34 years young, but just injuries just pile up, and evidently they seem to have taken a toll on Jake. William Nylander has 1 more left to go on his contract. Ryan O'Reilly, a lot of people were thinking he might stick around since he had some success and obviously helped the team get over that first round hump. Has signed a contract with the Nashville Predators, so he is not coming back to Toronto. Morgan Riley still has 7 more years to go on his contract. Nicholas Robertson has 1 more left to go on his contract. Luke Shen is also heading to Smashville to join Ryan O'Reilly, so he's not coming back. Wayne Simmons, if anything, he's just a bottom 6 guy at this point, 35 years old. If he comes back for Toronto, he knows he's going to be in and out of the lineup. Maybe he gets called down to the AHL. I'm honestly not 100% certain, but he's not the Wayne Simmons from like 10 years ago. And then John Tavares still has 2 more years left to go on his giant contract, so we'll see what happens with the Leafs and how they do next season. The Vancouver Canucks, let's take a gander at the goaltending situation. So Thatcher Demko still has 3 more years left to go on his contract. Colin Delia, his contract has ended, so he's most likely going to be a free agent. So now we'll take a look at their roster. Ethan Bear is going to most likely be a free agent, probably seeing where else he can possibly go. He's bounced around the league. Hold on just a second. As everyone knows, I don't really edit my videos. I just realized how blurry the video was right now. So let's see. Yeah, there we go. That's a little bit better. So yeah, Ethan Bear will most likely test the waters and see what he can possibly do and where he can end up. Anthony Beauvillier was involved in that Bo Horvat trade, so he has 1 more left on his contract. I'm sure since Horvat's sticking around Long Island that they're going to want Beauvillier to stick around Vancouver as long as possible. Brock Besser has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Guillaume Brisebois, his contract ran up, but he did sign a 2-year deal for $775,000, so he's going to be sticking around for a little while. Kyle Burrows, I believe, signed with the San Jose Sharks, so he's not coming back. Travis Dermott, his contract ran up, so he's going to be a free agent. Philip Di Giuseppe, his contract ran up, but he did re-sign for 2 more years at $775,000. Sheldon Dries has 1 more left to go on his contract. Ekman Larson now. This is insane. So when Vancouver first got him, I was thinking they finally got an elite defenseman. He wanted out of Arizona because they've been struggling for so many years. And then they buy him out. So he's now off to, oh my gosh, where did he go? Carolina? Florida? He did sign with somebody else. Of course, that's the one name I don't write down. Oh my goodness. Well, if anyone happens to watch this video, feel free to write in the comments where he took off. I could have sworn I wrote down where he went to, but obviously I didn't. Now I just feel foolish. But yeah, he played for Vancouver for a couple of seasons. He struggled, and then now they bought him out, so they've got to pay him for 4 more years, even though he won't